What if the UK, after almost 250 years, wants to reclaim its lost American colonies? How many carriers should the US Navy need to send out to intercept the British task force? Currently, the Royal Navy has two aircraft carriers, the HMS Queen Elizabeth and the HMS Prince of Wales. Both carriers are of the Stavel type, meaning their aircraft take off on their own power using a ski ramp and land vertically. In this exercise, we will assume the UK received all of its planned F-35B Lightning IIs. Together, both carriers can deploy up to 72 F-35Bs. A typical U.S. Navy carrier wing consists of 48 Super Hornets, or F-35 Lightnings. 3 U.S. Navy carriers with a total of 144 Super Hornets would easily outmatch the British 2-1 in fighters, freeing up the remaining 8 Navy carriers to retaliate against the British homeland. In this scenario, the UK wanted its former American colonies back and sent a task force escorted with the carriers HMS Queen Elizabeth and HMS Prince of Wales. 3 U.S. carriers with combined force of 144 Super Hornets was enough to stop this task force with a 2-1 advantage in fighters. With the Royal Navy out of the picture, only the 120 Eurofighter Typhoons of the Royal Air Force remained to defend the British mainland. Both the Eurofighter and Super Hornets are fourth-generation fighters. However, Super Hornets can carry up to 12 AMRAAM missiles against Typhoons, which can only carry 6 AMRAAM missiles. A single Super Hornet can theoretically shoot down 12 Eurofighters, whereas a Eurofighter can kill at best 6 Super Hornets. But if the U.S. Navy wants to play it safe, 5 carriers each with 48 aircraft totaling in a force of 240 Super Hornets would suffice to combat the Royal Air Force with a 2-1 fighter advantage. In the 1980 movie The Final Countdown, the USS Nimitz is transported back in time, just before the Pearl Harbor attack. What if today a modern nuclear carrier is transported back into time before the Pearl Harbor attack? Could that carrier stop the attack? The Japanese attack force consisted of the carriers Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, Hiryu, Shokaku, and Zuikaku. Together, these 6 carriers could deploy 117 A-6M20 fighters, 127 D-3A Val dive bombers, and 143 B-5N torpedo bombers. A single modern U.S. Navy carrier has 48 Super Hornets. Each Super Hornet can carry up to 12 AIM-120 AMRAAMs and 2 Sidewinders. With 576 AMRAAMs and 48 Sidewinders, a single sortie of Super Hornets would more than suffice to wipe out the entire Japanese aviation fleet of 387 aircraft. The U.S. Navy is without a doubt the most dominant sea power in the world. The key in this sea power are the aircraft carriers, which can protect American interests not only on sea but also deep inland by acting as mobile air bases. Other countries have noticed this too, and are trying on a limited scale to employ carriers in a similar way. Such a country is India, which operates 2 carriers, INS Vikrant and INS Vikramaditya. The Vikramaditya is the converted Soviet aircraft carrier Admiral Gorshkov, which the Indian Navy bought and refurbished in 2004. The Vikrant is the first carrier built in India itself. The Vikrant can carry 36 MiG-29Ks, while the Vikramaditya carries 26 MiG-29Ks. Although India has a respectable number of 62 carrier-based fighters, if it ever came to a naval clash between India and America, with just 3 carriers, the U.S. Navy could ensure a 2-1 numerical advantage. The U.S. Navy has 11 nuclear-powered aircraft carriers. Each carrier has 4 strike fighter squadrons with 48 fighters, which can be Super Hornets or F-35C Lightnings. In times of crisis, the first question is often, where is the nearest carrier? What if the United States go to war with France and the 2 navies meet each other in the Atlantic? How many carriers would the U.S. need to have a 2-1 fighter advantage? The French Navy has a single nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, the Charles de Gaulle. The usual contingent consists of 2 E-2C Hawkeye, 2 Dauphin helicopters, and 30 Rafale M fighters. The carrier can house up to 40 Rafale fighters. So in case of a naval battle between the U.S. Navy and the French Navy, 2 American aircraft carriers with 96 fighters would easily outnumber the French fighters 2-1. What if North Korea could finish the war they started in 1950? In a surprise attack, both the South Korean Air Force and Allied forces stationed in South Korea are defeated. So it's left to the U.S. Navy to reconquer air superiority over the Korean peninsula. The Korean People's Army Air Force is no pushover and deploys over 440 fighters and over 2,000 surface-to-air missiles. Its fighter force consists of MiG-17s, MiG-19s, MiG-21s, MiG-23s, and MiG-29s. Against these fighters, the U.S. Navy would have to deploy 10 of its 11 carriers to just match this force with 480 Super Hornets. Perhaps the biggest weakness of the North Koreans would be the age of their aircraft. The majority of their fighters are third-generation fighters. Only their MiG-29s are of the same generation as the Super Hornets. And this is even without the F-35s now being delivered to the Navy and Marines. One of the biggest threats to U.S. Navy carriers are bombers equipped with long-range anti-ship missiles. One such type is the Russian Tupolev Tu-22M. Russia has 55 of these bombers. What are the chances of a carrier surviving a coordinated attack of the entire Russian Tu-22M fleet? Each Tupolev can carry 3 Kh-32 air-to-surface missiles. These missiles have range of 620 miles and carry a 1,100 pounds warhead. The Super Hornets aboard the carrier have a maximum combat range of 550 miles. Combined with their AIM-120D AMRAAMs, they can attack targets up to 650 miles away from the carrier. Provided they get enough warning time, 10 Super Hornets with 12 AMRAAMs each might have just enough time to shoot the Tupolevs before they can fire their 165 Kh-32 missiles. Having enough of the vile Americans putting pineapple on their pizzas, Italy has declared war and wants to reclaim the Mediterranean Sea. The Italian Navy has 2 carriers, the Cavour and the Giuseppe Garibaldi, each capable of carrying 10 fighters. Since not all F-35Bs have yet been delivered, the aging AV-8B Harriers would form the backbone with 14 aircraft. The Italian Air Force could lend further support with 90 Eurofighters, 20 F-35As, and 41 Tornadoes. In order to counter these 171 fighters, the U.S. Navy could match that number with 4 carriers with 192 fighters. With 3 more carriers, the Navy would just be shy of a 2-to-1 advantage. Although with 7 carriers in the Mediterranean Sea, it might be a little bit crowded. Despite spanning just 284 square miles, Singapore stands out as one of the world's smallest countries. Its strategic location near major shipping routes could easily tempt major powers to try and control these vital lanes by capturing the island state. To ward off such threats, Singapore has fortified its defenses with top-of-the-line military equipment. The Singapore Air Force boasts an impressive fleet, including 40 F-15 SGs, a modified version of the F-15E Strike Eagle with enhanced engines, radar, and sensors, and 59 F-16s. Now, imagine a scenario where the U.S. Navy and Marines are deployed to conquer Singapore. With just 2 aircraft carriers, each housing 48 fighters, they could achieve a 2-to-1 air superiority. But Singapore's robust defenses and strategic preparations make it clear. This small nation is more than capable of holding its own.